The night was cold, and the rain fell in thin, sharp lines, like the sky wanted to wash the whole city away. The human man named Marcus walked slowly along the empty street, his coat soaked and his shoes heavy with water. He had finished a long shift and only wanted to reach home, drink something warm, and rest his tired body. But then, something strange happened. He heard a sound. A very soft, weak cry. It was not the cry of a human child. It was too faint, too shaky, too unfamiliar. Marcus stopped walking. He listened again. The sound came from the alley beside the old orphanage building. The orphanage was dark, its windows closed, its gate locked, as if nobody wanted to admit they were inside. Marcus turned his head and looked into the alley. The rain made it harder to see, and the shadows made it feel like the alley was hiding secrets. But the weak cry came again, slightly louder this time, like someone was running out of strength. Marcus walked toward the alley, slowly and carefully. His heart beat faster, not in fear, but in concern. When he reached the corner, he saw something small curled up beside a stack of wet cardboard. It was a girl, but not a human girl. Her skin was pale with a faint silver tone, and her hair was thin and white like frost. Her arms were thin, her clothes torn, and her small body shook in the rain. Her eyes opened slightly, and Marcus felt frozen inside. Her eyes were large, glowing softly, as if light lived behind them. She was an alien child. Marcus knelt beside her and spoke gently. "Hey, can you hear me?" he asked. The girl tried to move but could not. Her lips trembled, and she made a tiny sound, almost like a whisper without words. He could see bruises on her arms and strange glowing marks on her neck, like symbols nobody had taught her to read. She looked terrified, but she also looked like she hoped you would not leave. Marcus picked up his coat and wrapped it around her small body. The girl flinched at first, then relaxed when she felt warmth for the first time in a long while. Marcus lifted her carefully and carried her to the orphanage door. He knocked loudly. After a long moment, someone opened the door only a little, just enough for one unfriendly eye to stare at him. "What do you want?" the staff member asked with irritation in his voice. "I found this girl behind your building," Marcus said. "She's freezing. She needs help. Is she from here?" The door opened only a little more, but not enough to invite them in. The man shook his head quickly. "No, not ours, not welcome. Leave her somewhere else," he said, and shut the door hard. Marcus stood there in disbelief. The rain hit harder. The girl's small hand gripped his shirt weakly, as if she understood she had been rejected again. He looked down at her face. She was barely conscious, her breathing shallow and frightened. He could feel her body shaking, not just from cold, but from fear. He stepped back, confused and unsure. Taking her home was not a simple choice. Bringing an alien into his house could cause trouble. People were already afraid of alien children. Rumors said they were dangerous, unstable, unpredictable, cursed. But Marcus saw something else. He saw a child who had been abandoned, thrown away like trash, treated as nothing. The rain softened for a moment, and the girl opened her glowing eyes again. She looked at him like he was the only safe thing in the world. Marcus felt something tighten in his chest, a responsibility, a human instinct. He whispered softly, "I won't leave you here." As he turned to carry her away, something unexpected happened. The glowing marks on her skin began to shine brighter where his hands touched her. The light pulsed softly, like a heartbeat responding to another heartbeat. Marcus stared at the glow, confused and amazed. The girl's eyes glowed too, reflecting the same pattern. He did not know what it meant, but he could feel the truth. This girl was not just abandoned, she was awakening, because of him, and someone, somewhere would soon notice. Marcus walked through the rain with the alien girl in his arms, and every step felt heavier than the last. Not because of her weight, but because of the choice he was making. His small apartment was only a few blocks away, but the path felt longer tonight. The girl's head rested weakly against his chest, and her breathing was slow and uneven. She did not speak, but Marcus could feel her fear, as if her silence had its own voice. The streetlights flickered as he passed under them, and for a moment he wondered if it was just the storm, until he noticed something strange. Each light flickered only when the girl's glowing marks pulsed. It was faint, like a soft wave of energy, but he could see it clearly. Marcus pulled his coat tighter around her and walked faster, hoping nobody else saw. When he reached his apartment building, he pushed the door open quietly. The hallway was dim and narrow. The walls were old, the paint worn, and the air smelled like dust and forgotten years. But tonight, it also smelled like tension. A neighbor on the second floor opened their door just enough to peek out. Their eyes widened when they saw the alien girl in Marcus's arms. "Is that one of them?" The neighbor whispered, stepping back. Marcus did not answer. He did not have the strength for arguments. The girl's fingers clung to his shirt again, and he could feel how scared she was. He walked to his apartment, unlocked the door, and entered. The moment the door closed behind them, the girl seemed to relax a little, like the outside world had been chasing her. Marcus set her gently on the couch, and she looked around the room with wide, tired eyes. The apartment was small, one bedroom. A kitchen, a table, and a warm yellow lamp. It was not special, but to her, it seemed like a different universe. She reached out and touched the blanket on the couch, like she had never touched something soft before. Marcus knelt beside her and spoke softly. "You're safe here. I won't let anyone hurt you." She blinked slowly, as if trying to understand the words, then lowered her head in relief. He went to the kitchen and warmed a bowl of soup. When he returned, the girl watched him carefully. Marcus placed the bowl in her hands, and she hesitated. She sniffed the steam, then took a small sip, then another. Then suddenly she ate like she had been starving for days, maybe weeks. Marcus sat beside her, watching, feeling a strange ache in his chest. No child, human or alien, should eat like that. When she finished, she looked at him with those glowing eyes again. He could see a silent question in them. Why is he helping her? Marcus didn't know how to answer, even inside his own thoughts. He reached for a towel and gently dried her wet hair. She froze for a moment, expecting pain, expecting anger, expecting rejection, but when none came, her shoulders relaxed. She leaned slightly toward his hand, like warmth was something she had never owned. But then there was a sound. A soft mechanical hum outside the window. Marcus stood and pulled the curtain just enough to look out. A small hovering drone floated in the rain, scanning the street. A thin red beam swept slowly across the building surfaces, searching, hunting. Marcus's heart raced. Had it come for her? He stepped away from the window and turned off the lamp. The room fell into darkness, except for the faint glow from the girl's skin. She looked frightened again, sensing danger even without seeing it. Marcus knelt in front of her and put a finger to his lips, telling her to stay quiet. The drone's beam passed across the window, paused, then moved on. After a long silence, the hum faded into the distance. Marcus exhaled, but the fear remained. Someone knew she was missing. Someone was searching. The girl crawled closer and sat beside him, her small hand touching his sleeve. It was not just fear anymore, it was trust. She believed he would protect her. Marcus felt a chill run through him. He had taken her inside. He had made a choice that could not be undone. Outside, thunder cracked. Inside, the girl's glowing marks pulsed again, brighter this time. Something was changing. Something was beginning, and Marcus was now part of it. The night grew quieter, and the storm outside slowly faded, but Marcus could not rest. He watched the alien girl as she sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, her glowing eyes half closed with exhaustion. She looked warmer now, safer, but still fragile like a small bird that had forgotten how to live without fear. Marcus sat in a chair nearby, unsure what to do next. He had never taken care of a child before, especially not an alien child who didn't speak, didn't understand, and carried symbols on her skin that pulsed with mysterious light. The girl looked at him, studying his face as if trying to read his thoughts. Then she reached for the spoon he had used earlier to stir the soup. She held it clumsily and copied the way he had held it before. She lifted it to her mouth even though it was empty, like she wanted to learn how humans behaved. Marcus felt a strange warmth in his chest. She was watching him, imitating him, trusting him. He spoke softly, keeping his voice calm. "You're okay here. You're not alone." She blinked slowly, like she understood the feeling even if she didn't understand. The words, suddenly a loud car horn outside made her jump. She dropped the spoon and covered her eyes, shaking. Marcus moved closer and spoke gently. "It's okay, just a sound. Nothing will hurt you." He waited, and slowly her breathing settled again. It felt like she had lived her whole life expecting danger. Marcus pointed to himself. "Marcus." Then he pointed to her, hoping she would tell him her name. She stared at his hand, then placed her small palm over her chest, unsure. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out, only air, like her voice was trapped inside her. "It's all right," Marcus whispered. "You don't have to speak." He brought her a pillow and guided her to lie down. She hesitated, then slowly rested her head. Marcus pulled the blanket up gently. The girl watched him until her eyes grew heavy. Her glowing marks dimmed, and soon she slept peacefully. Maybe for the first time in her life, Marcus finally stood to stretch, but then paused. Something on the wall caught his eye, a faint glowing symbol like the marks on the girl's skin shimmered above the couch. It hadn't been there before. It pulsed softly, like it was breathing. Marcus stepped closer, confused. Was it a reflection? A trick of the light? But when he moved his hand, the symbol responded, its glow expanding as if attracted to him. He reached toward it, but before his fingers touched the wall, a soft sound came from behind him. A gentle hum, like air vibrating. Marcus turned quickly and froze. The girl was floating, only an inch above the couch, but unmistakably lifted off the surface, her hair drifting like there was no gravity. Her glowing marks brightened, matching the symbol on the wall. Marcus stared, not in fear, but in awe. The girl's breathing stayed slow and calm, like she was dreaming. Then, as if sensing him, she lowered back onto the pillow. The glowing symbol on the wall faded until it disappeared completely. Marcus stood still, his heart racing. What was she? Why had the orphanage abandoned her? Why were drones searching? Why did she react to him, to his touch, to his presence? He sat beside her again, watching her small hand clutch the blanket like it was something precious. She looked harmless, gentle, weak, lost, but something inside her was powerful. Something hidden. Something the universe might fear. As Marcus sat there, the city outside moved into deeper night. The rain stopped, the wind rested. But something else awakened. A faint tapping sound echoed from the hallway. Marcus looked toward the door. Tap, tap, not knocking. Not footsteps. Device. Scanning. Searching. The girl stirred, sensing something before he did. Her eyes opened slightly, glowing brighter than before. She reached for his sleeve, silently asking for protection. Marcus placed a hand over hers, and in that moment, the tapping stopped. Silence returned. But it was not the silence of peace. It was the silence before something arrives, before someone discovers, before decisions cannot be undone. Marcus understood now. He wasn't just sheltering her. He was becoming part of her fate, and whatever she was hiding. The universe would come looking for it. Morning came slowly, with gray clouds hanging low over the city. Marcus barely slept, waking again and again to check if the alien girl was still safe, still breathing, still resting on his couch when sunlight finally touched the window. She was sitting up, wrapped in the blanket, watching him with calm but cautious eyes. Her glowing marks were dimmer now, as if hiding themselves. Marcus gave her warm bread and tea. She smelled it first, then took small bites, more gentle than last night. She looked stronger now, though still fragile. When she finished, she sat beside him, her shoulder lightly touching his arm like she didn't want to be alone. But the peaceful moment didn't last. A loud knock hit the door, not like a neighbor, not like a friend. This knock was firm, sharp. Official. Marcus froze. The girl's eyes widened, and she gripped his sleeve with trembling fingers. The knocking came again, louder this time. Marcus walked carefully to the door and looked through the peephole. 2 figures stood in the hallway, tall, dressed in dark uniforms with metallic badges that glowed faintly. Their eyes were cold and focused, like they already knew what was inside. "Open the door," one of them commanded, voice deep and emotionless. Marcus didn't move. "We are here for the alien child," the second officer said. "She escaped from authorized custody. She must be collected for disposal." Marcus's chest tightened. Disposal. The word burned like fire. The girl behind him shook violently, as if she understood that horrible word. Marcus turned his head and saw fear in her eyes, fear deeper than hunger, cold, or loneliness. Fear of ending. He swallowed hard and forced his voice to stay steady. "She was outside, alone, freezing. You left her to die." "She is defective," the first officer replied. "Unfit for education, unfit for labor, unfit for adoption. She holds no value." Marcus felt his hands curl into fists. "She's a child. She is property," the officer corrected. "Now step aside." Marcus didn't know where the strength came from, but he stood straighter. He blocked the doorway with his body. "She's staying here," he said quietly. The officers stared at him, surprised that a human would defy them. Their expressions tightened, and one of them lifted a scanning device. It beeped sharply, detecting the girl's presence. "She has already bonded," the officer said, voice shifting to alarm. "Remove the human. The connection must be severed." The girl whimpered and hid behind Marcus, clutching his shirt. He could feel her shaking, hear her breath quicken. Something inside him reacted stronger than logic, stronger than fear. "You're not taking her," he said again, louder now. The officers exchanged a cold glance. "This is your final warning," the first officer said. "Interference will lead to arrest." Marcus didn't move. Then something unexpected happened. The girl stepped forward, still holding onto Marcus's arm. Her glowing marks brightened, spreading across her skin like rising light. The air vibrated softly, and the officers stepped back, startled. "She activates," one whispered. "Impossible. She was classified dormant." The girl looked up at Marcus, her glowing eyes full of trust. She lifted her small hand and pressed it against his wrist. The light flowed from her skin to his, forming faint patterns like the ones on the wall the night before. The officers stared in shock. "She has chosen him," the second officer said. "This cannot be reversed." The first officer lowered his device slowly. "We will report this. Higher authority will decide. Prepare yourself, human. Others will come." They stepped back, then turned and walked down the hallway, their footsteps echoing like a countdown. Marcus closed the door and locked it, his heart pounding. He leaned against the wood and took a shaking breath. The girl looked up at him, eyes soft but full of worry. He knelt in front of her. "They won't take you. Not while I'm here." She touched his chest gently, like she understood. But Marcus knew the truth. This was only the beginning. Someone more powerful would return, someone who did not accept refusal, someone who wanted her erased. Outside, a shadow passed across the window, something large moving in the sky. Marcus looked up slowly. Giant alien ship hovered far above the city, and it was looking for her. The giant alien ship hovered high above the city like a silent moon, its surface covered with shining patterns and shifting lights. People in the streets stopped and stared, pointing, whispering, recording with shaking hands. News alerts flashed. Across screens, nobody knew why it was there, but Marcus did. The ship was searching for the girl now sitting quietly in his living room, her hands wrapped around a mug of warm milk, her eyes following him wherever he moved. Marcus tried to stay calm, but his thoughts raced. The officers had called her defective, useless, unwanted. Yet the ship outside looked like something built only for royalty, leaders, or ancient rulers. Why would they chase a child they claimed to have no value? What were they hiding? The girl watched Marcus anxiously, sensing his fear. She pointed to the window, then placed her hand over her heart, as if trying to explain something. Marcus knelt beside her. "You know that ship, don't you?" he asked softly. She lowered her head and nodded slowly. Marcus felt his breath catch. He pointed to her glowing marks. "What are these? Do they mean something?" The girl hesitated, then pressed her fingertips to the table surface. Light flowed from her skin, forming shapes, symbols, lines, curves like a map or language only. She could create. Marcus watched the glowing designs take the shape of a crown, then a broken chain, then a tear, a lost princess, a prisoner, a child stripped of identity. Marcus felt a chill run through him. The orphanage had not merely abandoned her, they had hidden her. Someone had wanted her forgotten. Suddenly, his computer turned on by itself. The screen flickered, filled with strange symbols, the same symbols the girl had drawn. She stood and moved closer, placing her hand gently on the side of the monitor. The symbols rearranged themselves like they recognized her touch. Then they formed words in human language. "Heir detected." Marcus stepped back. The girl looked at him, afraid. He would reject her now that he knew what she was. But Marcus shook his head. "You're still just a child, and you're safe with me." The girl blinked, and for the first time a tiny sound left her lips. Not a word, just a soft breath of relief. She touched his arm and leaned against him, trusting him completely. But the moment didn't last long. A deep vibration shook the apartment. The lights flickered. The air felt heavy. The ship outside moved lower. People screamed in the streets below. Sirens wailed. Broadcasts ordered citizens to remain indoors. Marcus closed the curtains quickly and turned off the lights. The girl grabbed his hand tightly, her glowing marks brightening again. He could feel a warmth spreading through his skin where she touched him, not burning, but bonding, connecting. Then there was a sharp sound at the door, a metallic click. Marcus froze. Were the officers back? No. This time it was different. No knocking. No warnings. Someone on the other side was scanning the lock. The girl pulled Marcus toward the back of the apartment, her eyes full of terror. She pointed to herself, then to the door, shaking her head violently. She didn't want him to get hurt because of her. Marcus knelt and held her shoulders. "I'm not letting them take you. I don't care who they are." Her eyes filled with tears. She reached up and touched his cheek with a trembling hand. Her skin glowed brighter, and suddenly the symbol of the crown appeared faintly on his skin, too like she was sharing her identity with him. Then the scanning sound stopped. Silence. Long moment passed. Then footsteps retreated down the hallway. Marcus slowly approached the peephole and looked outside. The hallway was empty, but something lay on the floor. A small metallic cube, pulsing with light. A message? A tracker? A warning? He didn't touch it. He stepped back and locked every bolt. The girl sat on the couch, hugging her knees, her eyes fixed on him. She whispered a single word, her first real spoken word. "Stay." Marcus felt his chest tighten. She didn't want the universe. She didn't want the ship. She didn't want a throne. She wanted him. Outside, the ship's lights shifted, forming a massive symbol in the sky. The same crown. The world stared upward in confusion. But Marcus understood. They had found their heir, and they would return, not to search, not to negotiate, but to claim. The city felt different the next morning. People walked faster, spoke in whispers, and looked nervously at the sky. The giant alien ship remained above them like a silent eye, watching every movement below. Marcus stood at the apartment window, staring up at it, feeling the weight of danger pressing on his chest. Behind him, the alien girl sat quietly on the couch, still wrapped in the blanket, her glowing marks faint but alive beneath her skin. She watched Marcus with wide, worried eyes. She could sense the fear in him, but she could also feel something else: determination. She stood, walked to him, and gently tugged at his sleeve. Marcus looked down and saw the fear she was trying to hide. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'm here." She pressed her forehead lightly against his arm, as if she needed the reassurance to breathe. But then, something changed. The apartment lights flickered, not from the building power, but from something outside. A low hum filled the air again, deeper than before, like the heartbeat of the ship. Marcus stepped back as the walls vibrated. The girl clung to him, trembling. Then came another sound, a voice broadcast across the city. "Return the heir. Resistance will lead to removal of the human protector." Marcus felt his blood run cold. They weren't hiding their intentions anymore. They wanted the girl, and they saw him as an obstacle, not a person. A sudden knock hit the door loud. Heavy, final. The girl pulled Marcus back, shaking her head wildly. Her breathing grew fast and uneven, like she feared the moment more than death itself. Marcus walked slowly to the door, but he didn't open it. A mechanical voice spoke from the other side. "Human, surrender the alien child. She is marked for termination by royal decree." Marcus clenched his fists. "She's just a child," he shouted. "She hasn't harmed anyone." "She carries unstable power," the voice answered. "She must be destroyed before activation." Marcus turned toward the girl. She stared at him, tears filling her glowing eyes. She lifted her hand and touched her chest, then pointed to him like she was telling him to let her go to save himself. Marcus shook his head. "I'm not giving you up. Not now. Not ever." The girl's lips trembled. A small sob escaped her. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him, holding on as if the world outside would tear her away. The mechanical voice spoke again. "Final warning. Step aside." Marcus didn't move. Suddenly, the door shook violently as something tried to force it open. The girl screamed silently and grabbed Marcus's hand. A bright surge of energy exploded from her skin, filling the room with white light. The air crackled. The vibration stopped. The pounding ceased. Marcus turned to look at her and froze. Her glowing marks were blazing like fire, spreading across her arms, neck, and face like living symbols. Her eyes shined so brightly that the room lit with their reflection. But there was no anger in her expression, only fear. Fear of losing him. The door outside remained silent now, as if the ones behind it were suddenly afraid. Marcus knelt in front of her. "I'm here. I'm not leaving," he whispered. She reached up and placed her small glowing hand on his chest, and something incredible happened. A pulse of light expanded outward, forming a shimmering shield around them both. The energy wrapped the entire apartment, forming a barrier that no force could break. Outside, footsteps retreated quickly. Someone spoke in a panicked whisper. "She has bonded. She has chosen. The prophecy was true." Another voice answered, trembling. "Inform the High Council. The heir has awakened, and the human cannot be separated." Marcus didn't understand the words, but he understood their meaning. They could no longer take her, not without destroying him too. The girl collapsed into his arms, exhausted from the burst of power. Marcus held her tightly, stroking her hair, letting her know she was safe. "You're not alone anymore," he whispered. "You have someone now." Her breathing steadied, and she whispered her second human word, home. The shield around them flickered, but did not disappear. It stayed protecting, defending, claiming. Outside, the giant ship shifted position, its lights forming a new symbol, not a crown, a vow, a declaration that they were coming. But not for her, for him, because now the universe knew a human had done the impossible. He had been chosen. The day turned strangely quiet, as if the whole city was holding its breath. The giant alien ship above slowly rotated, its lights shifting into patterns that people below could not understand. But inside Marcus's apartment, there was only stillness. The alien girl slept in his arms, recovering from the burst of energy that had saved them both. Her breathing was soft, and her glowing marks faded to a calm, gentle light. Marcus held her close, feeling the warmth of her small body against his chest. He didn't know what would come next, but he knew one thing with certainty: he would not let anyone take her. Hours passed. Then the air changed again. A deep hum vibrated through the walls, and a soft white light filled the apartment, not threatening, not sharp, but steady and controlled. Marcus stood and stepped in front of the girl, ready to shield her again. But what appeared was not soldiers, not officers, not weapons. It was a single figure. Tall, elegant, dressed in flowing, layered armor that shimmered like starlight. Their eyes glowed with the same color as the girl's, and their voice carried calm authority. "Human," the figure said. "You were not meant to interfere with our heir." Marcus stood firm. "She's a child. She needed help. You abandoned her." The figure lowered their heads slightly, not in anger, but in shame. "She was hidden from us," they said quietly. "She was taken at birth by those who feared her power. We searched for years, but her signal was erased. When it returned, we believed she was unstable. We were told she must be eliminated for safety." Marcus felt anger rise. "She isn't dangerous. She's scared. She's lonely. She just needed someone." The figure looked at the girl, still sleeping peacefully. "She bonded with you," they said. "No alien in our history has ever bonded with a human. Your kind is known for chaos, unpredictability, emotion." Marcus didn't back away. "Sometimes emotion is what saves someone." The figure stepped closer, studying him. "She trusts you," they said softly. "Her power responds to your presence. Her heart chose you as her guardian." Marcus swallowed hard. "I won't let anyone hurt her." The figure nodded slowly, then lifted their hand. A beam of light scanned Marcus not as a threat, but as recognition. Symbols formed in the air: crowns, shields, circles, then faded into a single. Marking Guardian. The girl stirred, opened her eyes, and saw the tall figure. She did not shake this time. Instead, she stepped forward and held Marcus's hand tightly, pulling him with her. She stood between them, not hiding, not afraid, but choosing. The figure knelt before her. "My heir," they said, voice filled with longing. "We believed you lost forever." The girl looked at Marcus instead of them. And then she spoke her third human word: family. The tall figure looked at Marcus with surprise and something like respect. "You gave her what our world could not," they said. "Warmth, safety, a home." Marcus placed a gentle hand on the girl's shoulder. "She gave me something too." The figure stood tall again. "Then hear this," they declared. "By ancient law, a chosen guardian cannot be separated from the heir. She will not be taken. She will not be harmed. She will remain under your protection." Marcus exhaled, relief washing through him, but the figure wasn't finished. "You are invited to our world," they continued, "not as a prisoner, not as a subject, but as the guardian of the heir. You will hold a place no human has ever held." Marcus looked at the girl. She squeezed his hand, eyes shining with hope, not fear. He smiled softly. "Where she goes, I go." The figure raised an arm, and a beam of warm light surrounded Marcus and the girl, not cold, not heavy, but gentle like a sunrise. The apartment faded, the fear faded, the sky opened. They appeared aboard the great ship, surrounded by light and silence. The girl stood taller, her glowing marks forming the crown symbol with pride, not pain. She turned to Marcus and spoke her fourth word. Home. Not a place, a person, a human. And as the ship rose toward the stars, the universe recorded a new truth. Humans do not rule with strength. Humans do not conquer with power. Humans win with heart.